How rejection arrives quietly at first, like a cold wind brushing against your skin, and you don't fully notice it until it begins to burn, until it begins to settle into your chest where the truth hides behind every unreturned message, every distant tone, every look that feels different from yesterday. And in that moment you feel something inside you collapse just a little, like a foundation cracking beneath an old house. Yet somehow this small collapse is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a deeper one, because rejection is not a punishment, it is a revelation. A spotlight showing you where you invested your value without fully understanding your worth. And as your heart tightens, you begin to realize that the universe doesn't take things from you to hurt you. It removes them because you were meant to see something else, something hidden inside your own strength. And you never see this clearly until you lose what you were holding too tightly. And in that loss, something awakens, something ancient, something Marcus Aurelius wrote about when he said that the obstacle is the way. Because rejection is not the obstacle itself, the pain is not the obstacle itself, the silence they gave you is not the obstacle itself. The true obstacle is the story you tell yourself about it. The story where you believe you are unworthy, the story where you believe you failed, the story where you believe someone else determines your value. And this is the moment life teaches you the hardest truth, that rejection is the doorway to becoming someone stronger, someone calmer, someone more focused, someone who no longer bends their identity around the opinions of people who were never meant to stay. And as you listen to this voice, you will feel something shift, a sense that this moment of being turned away is not the end of your path, but the start of your rise. Because you can use rejection as a weapon, a tool, a mirror that reflects the parts of you that need rebuilding. And if you allow this moment to reshape you instead of break you, you will grow into someone they never expected, someone who no longer chases validation, someone who no longer begs for closure, someone who no longer seeks permission to exist, because you finally understand that the world doesn't owe you acceptance, and you don't owe anyone your suffering. And this video is your invitation to begin again, to stand where you are and turn your rejection into the fire that forges the next version of you. Because the people who walked away only taught you one thing. They taught you where not to invest your heart again. And from this moment onward, you rise with clarity, you rise with intention, you rise with a deeper awareness of your own power. And this journey begins right here, in the raw, quiet moment where rejection becomes your turning point. There is a moment when someone begins to pull away from you, slowly at first like a shadow stretching at sunset, and then suddenly the distance feels impossible to cross. And you feel your mind running in circles, wondering what changed, what you did wrong, what you failed to see. But this moment of emotional distance is not a tragedy. It is a signal, a wake-up call shaking you out of the illusion that people remain the same just because you remained loyal. And although it hurts, although it feels like a betrayal of everything you gave, the truth is that when someone pulls away, they are revealing their real priorities, their real character, their real emotional capacity. And you can only wake up to this truth when you stop begging for answers and start observing their actions. Because actions never lie, attention never lies, consistency never lies, and what you feel in your chest right now is the crash between reality and expectation. The moment Marcus Aurelius warned us about when he said that we suffer not from events but from our judgments about them. Because your mind built a story about this person, a beautiful story filled with hope, connection, trust. But their actions are now tearing that story apart. And it feels brutal because your heart is still living in the old chapter while their energy has already moved on to the next. And this is the moment where you wake up, not because you wanted to, but because life forced you to. And in this awakening, you begin to see that people rarely leave your life without reason. Sometimes they leave because you outgrew them. Sometimes they leave because they never planned to stay. Sometimes they leave because they cannot handle the depth of the connection you offered. And sometimes they leave because your presence reminded them of the work they haven't done on themselves. And once you wake up, you begin to understand the most powerful truth of all, that when someone pulls away, it is not a sign that you should chase. It is a sign that you should return to yourself. And the moment you return to yourself, you start to reclaim parts of your identity that you abandoned to keep them comfortable. You begin to breathe again without needing their validation. You start to walk with a quiet strength that makes people wonder how you healed so quickly. But you didn't heal quickly, you simply stopped negotiating your value with someone who didn't even know how to measure their own. And in that realization you rise Not with anger, not with revenge, but with clarity. Because once you wake up, you never go back to sleep again, and the person who once pulled away from you will eventually notice that the energy they abandoned has transformed into confidence, and the confidence they ignored has turned into distance, and that distance is the very thing they never expected you to give them, the thing that will change everything in the chapters ahead. Rejection often has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with someone else's discomfort, because people reject what exposes their insecurities. People reject what demands maturity they don't have. People reject what challenges their ego, and people reject what they cannot control. And when you carry strength, depth, loyalty, consistency, and emotional clarity, you automatically intimidate people who live in chaos or confusion, and instead of rising to meet your level, they pull away to protect their comfort zone. And Marcus Aurelius warned us that human beings fear what disrupts their inner disorder. So when someone cannot control the direction of your connection, they may reject you not because you are wrong for them, but because you were too right, too real, too steady, and they were not ready to face themselves through you. And this is why rejection often feels random or unfair, because you were offering something genuine while they were responding from fear. And this fear shows up as avoidance, silence, excuses, emotional distance, and you begin to think something is wrong with you when in reality your presence demanded they step into a version of themselves they were not yet capable of becoming. And many people will choose comfort over growth every time, not because they are bad, but because they are unprepared. And when someone rejects what they can't control, they are not pushing you away, they are protecting the fragile parts of themselves from being exposed. But here is the hidden truth the Stoics understood. Rejection from someone who cannot control you is actually protection. It protects you from dimming yourself to fit into their insecurities. It protects you from shrinking your strength to make them feel bigger. It protects you from wasting years trying to teach them lessons life will eventually teach them through other people. And once you realize this, your heart becomes calmer, because you begin to see that rejection is not a reflection of your weakness, but a reaction to your power. And people who cannot control you will always pull away from you because they were never meant to walk beside you. And instead of chasing them, you learn to embrace the space they create, because that space is where you grow into the version of yourself that no longer fears losing people who were never prepared to handle your authenticity. When someone rejects you or pulls away, they often expect you to collapse, they expect you to chase, they expect you to beg for clarity or closure, because this is the pattern most people fall into when their ego is wounded. But you are not most people, you are on the Stoic path. And the Stoic path teaches you the most powerful reverse psychology in existence, the kind that requires no manipulation, no games, no petty behaviors, simply self-control so strong that it rewrites the entire dynamic. Because when you respond to rejection with calm detachment instead of panic, something shifts in the energy, something they never expected, something they cannot control, and this shift is the silent game they never see coming. Because the moment you stop reacting, you stop feeding the emotional power they thought they had over you. And this confuses them, it disrupts the outcome they imagined, and suddenly they begin to wonder why their absence didn't break you, why their silence didn't weaken you, why their distance didn't make you chase. And this wondering becomes the spark that pulls their mind back toward you even while they pretend to move on. And Marcus Aurelius said that the mind becomes uneasy when it loses control over something it once believed it influenced. And this is why reverse psychology works without effort, because your calmness becomes the most unexpected answer, your silence becomes the loudest message, your lack of reaction becomes the thing they did not prepare for, and the more neutral you remain, the more their curiosity grows, and curiosity is the beginning of every shift in power. But here is the secret the Stoics understood. This reverse psychology is not about manipulating them. It is about mastering yourself, because when you gain control over your emotional impulses, you no longer reinforce the dynamics that caused the rejection in the first place, and whether they return or not becomes irrelevant, because you have become someone who no longer breaks when someone pulls away, and this inner strength becomes the very thing they never expected you to develop, the thing that transforms everything that follows. There is a strange phenomenon in human behavior, one you have experienced more times than you realize. Because the moment you stop chasing someone, the energy shifts completely, the dynamic resets, the story changes, and suddenly the person who once acted distant begins to pay attention again, begins to watch you from a distance, begins to feel something they didn't feel when you were available, Because familiarity kills curiosity and accessibility kills desire, but distance creates psychological tension, and Marcus Aurelius explained that human beings value what requires effort, they value what is scarce, they value what is not guaranteed, and when you stop chasing you remove the illusion of certainty they once had over you, and this creates a powerful internal conflict within them, because they expected you to remain predictable, they expected you to remain emotionally invested, they expected you to continue giving them what they no longer appreciated. But the moment you stop doing that, they feel the loss instantly. Not because they loved you deeply, but because the attention you gave them fed their ego. And now that ego feels the absence, and the absence feels like rejection, and rejection ignites a desire to reclaim what was lost, even if they are not sure why, and suddenly they begin to notice things they ignored before, your confidence, your silence, your availability, shrinking your energy, becoming exclusive, and this noticing becomes a chain reaction. Because when you remove your presence, people finally see its value. When you stop explaining yourself, people begin to wonder. When you stop showing up, people realize the difference between your effort and their assumption that you would always be there. And this shift is not about playing games, it is about awakening your self-respect. Because chasing drains your power, but detachment restores it. And when you stop chasing, you don't lose people who were meant for you, you only lose the ones who benefited from your lack of boundaries. And those are the people you were never meant to hold on to anyway. To become unreachable in the Stoic sense does not mean becoming cold, cruel, indifferent, or emotionally unavailable. It means becoming grounded enough in yourself that nobody's rejection can shake your identity, and nobody's attention can inflate your ego. Because the Stoics believed that true strength comes from inner stability, not from shutting the world out, but from filtering what enters your mind and what shapes your emotions. And becoming unreachable is the art of protecting your peace. Without punishing others, protecting your worth without announcing it, protecting your heart without hardening it. And this begins the moment you stop basing your value on how someone else treats you. Because people who reject you are often projecting their own internal chaos, and the Stoic path teaches you not to absorb that chaos but to observe it, detach from it, and rise above it. And when you do this, you become unreachable, not because you built walls, but because you built understanding. And understanding becomes a shield stronger than any form of emotional distance. And the more you understand human behavior, the less their inconsistency affects you. And this calmness gives you a power they cannot touch, a presence they cannot shake. And this is where you become unreachable, not physically, not emotionally, but psychologically. Because people can only hurt you if you place your peace in their hands. And once you reclaim it, they can no longer control your happiness. They can no longer weaponize their silence. They can no longer manipulate your need for validation. And this is how you become unreachable but not unkind, because you still move. With compassion, you still care deeply, you still show respect. But you no longer allow the world to decide your worth. And this is the kind of energy that transforms your relationships forever. Because people sense your stability, they sense your calmness, they sense that you no longer need anything from them to feel complete, and this lack of need makes your presence more powerful than ever. And it is here in this balance between softness and strength that your life begins to shift in ways you never expected. Rejection feels like something is being taken from you, but in reality something is being revealed inside you. Because every time you are denied something you wanted, you are given something you needed. And this truth only becomes clear when you sit alone in the quiet aftermath of someone walking away, when your heart aches and your mind spins, and you wonder how this pain could possibly benefit you. But Marcus Aurelius taught that the world is constantly shaping you through resistance. And rejection is resistance in its purest form. It is life pressing against you, forcing you to grow stronger than your comfort zones ever allowed. And what most people never understand is that the version of you before the rejection is not the version of you that survives it. Because rejection demands reinvention, rejection demands clarity, rejection demands that you question who you were giving your heart to and why. And in this questioning, you uncover truths that were hidden beneath your attachment, truths you would have ignored if everything had gone your way. Because comfort blinds you, but pain sharpens your vision, and this sharpening reveals the parts of yourself you abandoned to be loved by someone who didn't even know how to keep you. And as you pull yourself back together piece by piece, you begin to realize that rejection didn't break you, it broke your illusions. It broke your assumptions, it broke your patterns, and once those break, something new emerges, something stronger, something more grounded, something less willing to tolerate disrespect or inconsistency. And this is the strength that only rejection can give you. The strength to stand alone without feeling empty, the strength to walk away without hesitation, the strength to remain cantered even when everything around you is falling apart. And in this strength you begin to move differently, with a deeper understanding of yourself, with a quieter confidence that doesn't need attention to exist, with a resilience that cannot be shaken by someone else's indecision. Because what once hurt you now shapes you, what once weakened you now fuels you, and the person who rises after rejection is not the same person who was left behind. They are wiser, more aware, more selective, more self-respecting. And this transformation is something no one can take away from you because it was built inside you through fire and reflection. And that is why rejection is not the end of your story, but the beginning of the version of you that no longer fears losing people who never deserve to stay. There comes a moment in your journey where your mindset shifts so deeply that the world around you begins to respond differently to you. Because instead of trying to prove your value, you begin to embody it. Instead of chasing people, you begin to attract the right ones effortlessly. Instead of feeling unworthy, you begin to recognize your uniqueness. And this is the moment you become the prize, not in an arrogant way, not in a superior way, but in a grounded, stoic way where your self-worth is no longer negotiable. And when this shift happens, everything changes because people feel the difference in your energy. They feel that you no longer need their approval to feel complete. They feel that your attention is no longer guaranteed. They feel that you are no longer operating from insecurity but from inner strength. And this creates a psychological shift inside them, because the moment they realize you are the prize, they start treating you differently. They start respecting you more. They start noticing the value they once took for granted. And sometimes the very people who rejected you begin to return, not because they suddenly see your worth, but because they finally notice what life looks like without your presence. And this is where the Stoic discipline becomes essential, because becoming the prize is not about becoming arrogant or unreachable. It is about understanding that your value never came from how someone else treated you. It came from who you are when no one is watching, from the character you build, from the discipline you maintain, from the emotional control you develop. And when you operate from this place, you realize that the people who drifted away did you a favor, because they made room for people who can meet you at the level you are rising into. And the more you embrace this truth, the more your life changes. Because when you behave like the prize, you attract people who actually value you instead of people who simply enjoy your availability. You attract opportunities because your energy becomes focused and intentional. You attract respect because you no longer allow anyone to treat you casually. And this transformation is the moment you stop waiting for validation from others and start living as the person you were always meant to become. Walking away first is one of the most misunderstood strengths in human relationships, because society teaches you to hold on, fight for people, prove your loyalty, never give up. But Stoicism teaches something different. It teaches that your peace is more valuable than any relationship that threatens it. It teaches that you do not owe your suffering to anyone. And it teaches that knowing when to walk away is a sign of power, not weakness. Because walking away first means you recognize when a connection no longer honors your growth, when a person no longer respects your effort, when a situation is draining more energy than it returns. And the moment you decide to walk away before they reject you is the moment you reclaim full control of your life. And this decision is not based on ego, it is based on self-respect. Because people sense when you will tolerate anything just to avoid being alone. And that energy invites mistreatment, invites inconsistency, invites disrespect. But the moment you develop the strength to walk away first, everything changes. Your value increases instantly because you show the world that you are not desperate for anyone's presence. You become harder to manipulate because your boundaries are clear. You become more confident because you choose yourself over chaos. And ironically, this is often the moment the other person begins to chase you or regret losing you. Because walking away breaks their illusion of control, and humans crave what they can no longer have. But Stoicism teaches that you should never walk away to provoke a reaction. You should walk away because your soul is asking for peace, because your spirit is exhausted, because your intuition knows the truth long before your heart accepts it. And when you listen to that truth, you protect yourself from months or even years of unnecessary pain. And this strength grows with each experience. until walking away becomes a natural part of choosing yourself. And when you master this ability, you will never again cling to someone who isn't meant for you, because you finally understand that losing someone is not the end of your life, but the beginning of a chapter where you show yourself what you are truly capable of becoming. There comes a point where explaining yourself becomes pointless because the person you are talking to is not listening to understand you, they are listening to defend themselves or justify their behavior. And this is where silence becomes more powerful than any argument, any message, any emotional expression, because silence cannot be manipulated, silence cannot be twisted, silence cannot be debated, and silence cannot be ignored. It forces the other person to sit with themselves, to sit with the reality of their actions, to sit with the emptiness left by your absence. And this is why your silence hits harder than your words, because words give them something to respond to, something to argue with, something to blame you for, but silence gives them nothing. And the human mind hates a void. It fills that void with overthinking, assumptions, doubts, regrets. And this overthinking becomes the consequence your words could never create. And Marcus Aurelius knew this when he said that restraint is more powerful than expression, because the mind learns more from what is not said than what is spoken. And when someone rejects you or mistreats you, your silence becomes a mirror reflecting their truth back at them. And this mirror forces them to confront the reality they avoided when you were still emotionally available. And the person who once ignored you will begin to wonder why you suddenly became quiet, what changed inside you, whether you have moved on, whether someone else has your attention. And this wondering becomes the beginning of their loss, because silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of self-respect, the presence of boundaries, the presence of emotional maturity. And when you choose silence not as punishment but as protection, you rise above their chaos, you rise above their games, you rise above their inconsistency. And they feel it, even if they never admit it, because silence forces them to experience the weight of losing someone who once gave them everything freely but now gives them nothing at all. And that weight is often heavier than anything you could have expressed with your words. People often return not because they suddenly discovered your value, but because they suddenly realize their access to you is gone. And the human mind is wired to want what it can no longer reach. This is not love, this is psychology. And when you detach, something shifts inside them because the dynamic they once depended on is no longer there. The predictable version of you no longer exists. The always available version of you is gone. And Marcus Aurelius taught that to change your life, you must first change your reactions. And when your reaction to rejection becomes detachment instead of desperation, the entire story rewrites itself. Because detachment is not the same as indifference. Detachment means you stop allowing someone else's emotions to control your inner world. It means you observe without absorbing. It means you feel without falling apart. And when you reach this state, you become unpredictable in the most powerful way. Because they cannot read you anymore. They cannot rely on your response. They cannot use your feelings to maintain their ego. And this uncertainty triggers a desire to reconnect. And suddenly they begin reaching out in small ways at first, watching your stories, liking your posts, testing the waters, trying to see if the old version of you is still there. But the old version died the moment you detached, and the new version does not move out of fear or longing. The new version moves from strength, because once you detach, your world expands beyond them. Your energy rises above them. Your value becomes something you feel instead of something you chase, and they can sense this shift, and this sensing is what pulls them back. Not love, not regret, not apology, but the fear of losing access to someone they never expected to grow without them. And the irony is that the moment they come back is usually the moment you no longer need them to return, because you have already discovered that peace tastes better than someone who could not decide whether to choose you. Your darkest pain does not destroy you, it sculpts you. It shapes you. It stretches you into someone with a deeper heart, a sharper mind, a stronger soul. And although you may resist this truth when you are in the middle of your suffering, the Stoics understood that pain is the greatest teacher life will ever send. Because pain breaks the ego, pain reveals your wounds, pain exposes the illusions you built around people who did not deserve your loyalty. And once these illusions collapse, something powerful emerges from the ruins. Something raw, something unfiltered, something honest. And that is your strength. Not the polished strength you show others, but the strength that comes from surviving nights where you questioned everything, nights where you broke down alone, nights where you felt abandoned by the world. And despite all of that, you are still here, breathing, listening, evolving. And this survival is not accidental, it is proof that your soul is far more resilient than your circumstances. And this resilience begins to grow into confidence, the kind of confidence that cannot be faked because it is rooted in experience, rooted in scars, rooted in the battles you fought when no one was watching, and the people who hurt you become unwilling teachers. Their betrayal becomes the lesson that sharpened your intuition. Their rejection becomes the catalyst that pushed you toward your own transformation, and every tear you cried becomes evidence that you cared deeply but refused to let that caring break you permanently. And this depth becomes your advantage in life because you now recognize red flags instantly. You now protect your boundaries instinctively. You now walk away faster. You now demand more from the world because you finally understand your worth was never tied to who stayed but to who you became when they left. And this is why your deepest pain eventually becomes your greatest strength, because it taught you what no mentor could teach. It taught you that you can survive the loss of people you once believed you couldn't live without, and that realization will shape every decision you make from this point forward. Detachment is the highest form of emotional mastery, not because you feel nothing, but because you feel everything without letting it control you. And this mastery is what the Stoics chased throughout their lives: the ability to observe the world without being enslaved by it, the ability to endure heartbreak without losing themselves, the ability to love deeply without becoming dependent. And when you begin to develop this mastery, something profound happens inside your mind. Because the noise of the world becomes quieter, the chaos of people's emotions becomes less overwhelming, the sting of rejection becomes less personal, and suddenly you move through life with a calmness that others cannot understand. A calmness that comes from knowing your worth is not negotiable. Your peace is not disposable. Your heart is not something that anyone can play with, and this calmness becomes a force, a presence, a magnetism that draws the right energies toward you while repelling the wrong ones. And this is how your Stoic mind begins to rise, because you no longer react to everything, you no longer chase after fading connections, you no longer allow anyone to dictate your emotional climate, and this mastery allows you to navigate relationships with wisdom, seeing the intentions behind people's actions, recognizing when someone's words do not match their behavior, understanding when to lean in and when to let go. And the more you practice this state of being, the more natural it becomes, until one day you wake up and realize that the things that once broke you now barely shake you, and the people who once controlled your emotions no longer hold any power, and the storms that once terrified you now feel like passing weather, because you have become the observer of your life rather than the victim of it. And this mastery of detachment will guide you through every rejection, every betrayal, every disappointment, transforming each one into a lesson instead of a wound. And this rise of your Stoic mind will become the foundation on which you build every future relationship, including the one you have with yourself. Rejection becomes your lifelong advantage the moment you stop seeing it as a personal attack and start seeing it as an emotional filter, because every rejection removes someone who was not aligned with your destiny. Every rejection redirects you away from people who cannot love you at the level you deserve. Every rejection protects you from giving your soul to someone who would have mishandled it. And when you stop taking rejection personally, you begin to recognize it as divine intervention, as the universe rearranging your path the same way Marcus Aurelius believed fate rearranges the pieces of our lives for our growth. And once you begin to embrace this truth, rejection becomes an asset, because it teaches you resilience, it teaches you emotional independence, it teaches you clarity, it teaches you to stop forcing what is not meant for you. And with each rejection you become wiser, more selective, more grounded, more intentional. And this intentionality becomes your advantage in life because you no longer waste time convincing people to choose you, you no longer cling to connections built on potential instead of reality, you no longer weaken yourself trying to prove your worth. And this shift in perspective makes you powerful because you stop fearing loss. And once you stop fearing loss, nothing can control you. Not people, not situations, not temporary emotions. And the day you understand this is the day rejection becomes your silent ally, guiding you toward better opportunities, better relationships, better chapters filled with people who appreciate your presence instead of exploiting it. Chapters filled with connections that feel effortless instead of one-sided. chapters where you no longer beg to be chosen because you finally choose yourself, and this lifelong advantage grows with time until you look back and realize that every rejection was not a detour but a direction away from what was beneath you and toward the future that was waiting for you all along.